Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. Yes, that is correct. In 2021, I spent roughly 12,000 euros and this includes all the expenses. So rent, transportation, food, trips, clothes, any expense that you can imagine is included in that. And it's the total that I just mentioned of 12,000 euros. And how did I calculate exactly this? Well, I do something which is a bit boring to be honest, which is that every single month I go through all my different bank accounts and places where I spend my money and I track every single expense that I make. And although, as I said, this is not something that I particularly enjoy, what I do enjoy is seeing then the data and being able to act on that, because sometimes you have maybe the feeling that you spend very little money, but then once you start adding up all the expenses, you see that you're spending almost all of your salary and you don't really save much money. So this is really something that I would encourage everyone to do. To become rich, there are two crucial aspects. One of them is how much money you generate, and the other one is how much money you spend. You can very well be generating a crazy amount of money, let's put as an example 2 million euros, but at the end of the day, if you're spending in that same year 1.99 million, you are just left with 10,000 euros at the end of the year that you're really saving for you. This is the same for companies, but in terms of company, we would be talking about revenues and then net profits, which net profits is just the revenues deducting all the expenses and then what's left for you. A company can have revenues of, I don't know, 500 million euros, but then if it spends 480 million euros in all the expenses, it is only left with 20 million euros, which is the real profit that they are having. So, which of these two different metrics that we looked at is more important? Generating more revenue or controlling expenses? If I had to choose one, I would say generating revenues, because you can be very good at controlling all your expenses, but if you don't generate enough revenues, it won't be of much use and most likely you will never be rich. However, on the other hand, it is also pointless on making a lot of money if then you are also spending it all and you have no control over your expenses, because as we mentioned in the example earlier on, you will end up not saving anything. Now going back to the topic of the video, let me share with you how I did it, because I have the feeling that many people still think that it's not possible to live in such an expensive city like Munich with so little. In fact, I published about a year ago a video which was titled Survival Salary in Munich, kind of, let's say, the minimum salary that you should earn net to live, let's say, more or less comfortably in Munich. Again, comfortably a bit in brackets. And I mentioned this to be of 1,150 euros, and several people in the comments mentioned that it was not possible to live on such low salary, that you should be earning at least more than that. And the proof that it is possible is just myself. I mean, I know that I'm frugal, but if I'm able to achieve this, then so would anyone else. And in this case, in fact, for the whole 2021, I mean, in the title I rounded up to 12,000 euros, but I spent in total 11,881.74 euros, which if we divide by 12 months, it comes out to 990 euros and 50 cents per month on average, which is less than the survival salary that I gave for Munich. How did I do it though exactly? Well, my rent was 690 euros per month, and this includes all the expenses. I was living in a pretty small apartment on the outskirts of Munich. Actually, if you want to see the apartment, I did a video some time ago. I think it was also about a year ago. It will be just linked here above and also down below in the description. Then on food, I was spending on average 60 to maybe 70 euros per month. Actually, it was more 60, but I'm trying to be here conservative. Buying in the supermarket, I was mostly buying in Lidl 99% of the time, which, if you don't know, this is just a supermarket. And I was eating mostly cheap things like pasta, rice, and I was only buying really fish or meat whenever they were discounted. On transportation, almost everything else from these 990 euros, so whatever the difference was. And on transportation, here I'm including the flights that I was, let's say, regularly taking to go back to Spain to visit my friends and family, as well as the maintenance for my car and also the gas. And finally, a very small amount was going to other aspects like buying clothes, shoes, and some cheap leisure activities every now and then. And if you want to get more detail into how I was able to save on these different aspects, I actually have several videos on my channel in which I was going into more detail into each one of these, so feel free to check those out. Something to keep in mind with these expenses for 2021 is that I didn't really travel throughout the whole year. All the traveling I did was just to go back to Spain to visit my friends and family and maybe do activities there, like day trips and then maybe going hiking to a mountain and sleeping there and so on. But I didn't do, let's say, a major trip where I had to fly over somewhere else, then sleep or in Airbnbs or campings or whatever. It wasn't the case. So maybe this year that hopefully I'm able to do more stuff, I'm likely to spend a bit more, basically because of the trips. Maybe for last year, if we had included trips, so let's say in a normal environment without COVID and all of these things, we could be looking at 1,150 to maybe 1,200 euros per month on average. If I had to summarize the answer to the title of the video on how I managed to spend 12,000 euros living in Munich, such an expensive city, I would just say that by being frugal in all aspects of my life and trying to always find the cheapest alternative. Was the year 2021 the happiest of my life? No. Would it have been better had I spent more money? I really doubt it. Also, I must say that although here I'm just sharing the data for 2021, being frugal is something that I have in my nature and I have always been doing so it's nothing that supposes a sacrifice for me. And maybe in a normal environment I would have spent a bit more than this, but it was mostly due to COVID as well as personal situations that I ended up spending a bit less. And in general, as I said, I think I'm pretty good at managing all the expenses. So I'm really good in the two things I mentioned to become rich. I'm extremely good at managing my expenses and keeping them low. And now I just need to work on increasing those revenues. With that said though, this is the end of the video. I will leave here now next to me the overview of how much were my expenses month by month in total. I know that it's much more useful to know exactly how much I spend on rent, on transportation, on food and these different things, which is what I already tried to more or less give an overview earlier on. And now, what about you? Do you also track all your expenses? If so, can you please let me know how much you spent during the past year 2021? Maybe you can just drop it in the comments below. It would be great if maybe you could just put the amount and maybe the city or country you live in, just so we get a better overview. And with that said, as I said, I will leave it for today. If you enjoyed the video, then please don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're not yet subscribed, and as always, see you next time.